Yeah. Let's be cool, dog. Yeah. He was trying to show 100 bands. Shoot, dog. Yeah. I'm on FaceTime with my mans, camera too small. He was trying to flex 100 bands. Who is you, dog? In my life, I ran through 100 bands. What you move, dog? You made a move, not thinking with your head, knock it smooth off. When you riding in that double law, take your shoes off. When you out here playing in them streets, turn the rules off. When you riding dirty on that turn the cruise off. And shorty send the news, she won't fuck me with my jewels on. I'm a dog plug tossing, I'm a fetch. I just wanna rollie all them up baguette. Talking to your guy, he told him get the rose baguette. Marcelo Balon, but the hoodie say the Mets. I'ma chase a check. Yeah, I did the limit on the way, but I'm racing back. Came a long way from paper plates, thinking paper tags. Feeling awkward walking in the bank, came from paper man. You was big on niggas for some pussy, but you're hating. I got options, cut her off cause it was toxic. Booted up as I poppin', before Doug I took a Roxy. If I could put my life out to the game, then I pick hockey. Sticks everywhere, foul play, then we gon' box him. Drip everywhere, these niggas sick, they tryna copy. Yachts in Miami full of foreigns, call me Poppy. Leveled up on these hoe niggas, now they oppies. Man, I swear I hate these niggas, I'm a Nazi. Fuck 'em. Yeah. Bitches saying rain on me like a Shanti. Yeah. Hey, thirsty ass bitch want my love, I gave her Molly. Yeah. And I'm drinking straight, drop lean, fuck a jolly. Yeah. I just want the money and the power, Ghost and Tommy. I done seen these niggas change once the fame came. They started to notice me, I never changed, I did the same thing. Free my nigga Weezy, we the go, we throw the same ring. Free my nigga Spaz, or the young bully, fuck your main thing. Ooh, I stopped playing with that Trizzy, did the plain thing. The anniversary of chicken in this plain game. Niggas stumbled in my office, all broken cane. Take the syrup, then I mix it, I can't feel the pain. I can't feel these words, we ain't built the same. Fuck it, get the face, I forget her name. I just know she ain't mine and every bitch the same. First they love you, then they hate you, it come with the game. Yeah. Bitches saying rain on me like a Shanti. Yeah. Hey, thirsty ass bitch want my love, I gave her Molly. Yeah. And I'm drinking straight, drop lean, fuck a jolly. Yeah. I just want the money and the power, Ghost and Tommy.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie to you, DeMarcus. I ain't appreciate them firing on people like that, man. Jeremiah, what up, though? I don't get it. Like, I don't know. Then the people who they chose to keep, like, I don't know, man. Cause people don't like Max, man. I thought Max was pretty good. I don't got no problem with Max. Keyshawn, they got rid of Keyshawn. That shit was out of pocket. Shit out of pocket. I swear I love my black women, man. I really do, man. But this bitch right here ain't right, bruh. I swear to God, she ain't right. Yeah, Stephen A. Smith ain't like Max because Max was on that bitch keeping it real. Max was more real than the nigga Stephen A. Like, and then the crazy thing about Stephen A. When that show first came on, back when Stephen A. first got on ESPN, period, like, he was that nigga. Like, he was the reason why I watched it. For real. Stephen A. was a real nigga. Like, back in the day, like, when Allen Iverson was in the league, he was like Allen Iverson, man. He was like Allen Iverson to Mar Rashad. Like, but then that's the first thing he did. He was out of pocket when he placed AI. That's when we found out that nigga was shady, but you know. Let's watch this shady ass bitch. This bitch shady, bro.
The ultimate hater of black human beings. The ultimate hater. There is nothing about her existence that says, I'm black and I'm proud.
Be remiss not to also mention that Missoula was arrested twice at West Virginia, once in 2008 for underage drinking and aggravated assault. Adrian Payne was shot and killed in Orlando, Florida, early Monday morning. In 2018, he was waived by the Magic after he was named in a report by ESPN's Outside the Lines that he'd been involved in an alleged sexual assault.
His name did surface in court testimony involving a case where his former teammate and another man, they've been indicted for capital murder.
The NBA media is often disliked by many, usually just for their annoying journalistic tendencies. But considering recent involvements, one member of the NBA media stands out among all. She goes by Malika Andrews. In her short career in basketball media, Malika has already swiftly established herself as a very disliked figure for various reasons. Whether it be from taking extremist stances, targeting specific groups of people, or just arguing out of bad faith, she's not unfamiliar to any of it. But despite these concerning incidents, the recent large-scale firing in an attempt to cut costs by ESPN saw the exit of many experienced and clean-slated analysts and hosts including Jalen Rose, Jeff Van Gundy, and Max Kellerman, while Malika Andrews remained untouched, causing outbursts among the community. While unsurprising, there was no doubt that NBA players, fans, and even her co-workers aren't fond of her. But why is she still such a favorite at ESPN? This is just one of the many questions we'll be answering very shortly. Before we get into that, more recently, the spotlight returned on Malika after the 2023 NBA Draft, where Malika Andrews publicly read out dramatized headlines of Brandon Miller's past, painting the second overall pick in a false and unflattering manner, attempting to tarnish his name. Some claim this was an unintended attack, but judging by Andrews' previous public comments,
Cause the thing is with me, like, she don't have to say the shit she be saying. Like, it's not fucking called for, man. It's not called for at all, bro. Shit's sad, man.
This incident targeting someone like Brandon Miller should have come at no surprise. Previous encounters saw her get into ill-intended exchanges with Giannis Antetokounmpo, Matt Barnes, and Stephen A. Smith, just to name a few. But before we get into how these altercations developed, let's rewind the clock and better understand who Malika Andrews is.
Grandpa, when I found the bird, I prayed. God, you made this poor little guy, so maybe you could help him out.
As hard as in beating Sarah and Zed.
Then I saw God standing on the other side of the lake.
Then y'all know what break my heart the worst about Malika? What really, really, like, makes me so mad? Man, this bitch fine as hell, dog.
Malika Andrews was born in January 1995 in Oakland, California, to a personal trainer father and an art teacher mother. She attended a private coeducation prep school called Head Royce School, and she proved to be great academically. Although things seemed to be going great, behind closed doors it was a different story. Malika Andrews would later claim that as a middle schooler, she was angry, depressed, and anxious, and suffered from multiple eating disorders. She would state that from 14 years old, she would be in survival mode, later admitting to her parents that she may need some professional help. As a result, her parents would enroll her into a therapeutic boarding school in Utah at 14 years old. If you didn't know, a therapeutic boarding school is a school focused on creating.
So this bitch been crazy. I'm not gonna, like, make fun of no. Yeah, I'm not even gonna say nothing about it. Yeah, I ain't gonna say nothing.
Creating a therapeutic schooling and housing environment for students with emotional or behavioral issues. Regardless, she would get through these tough times and graduate high school in 2012, and would later work at a civil rights law firm with her grandpa for a year before she began her communications degree at the University of Portland. During her time in college, she would take on the journalistic roles at the university, where she was a sports writer, sports editor, and editor-in-chief. After graduation, Malika would introduce herself to Adrian Wojnarowski at the 2017 Summer League, but it would be years later until they would work together at ESPN. Anyways, her academic results and diverse portfolio of work at her university would still earn her various internship offers. Coming out of college, she worked 1 year with the Chicago Tribune before joining ESPN as a reporter, covering the Chicago Bulls and Milwaukee Bucks. While Malika was closely covering the Bucks vs Raptors series in 2019, was when her first controversial incident would arise. Following the Milwaukee Bucks' series defeat to the Raptors in the Eastern Conference Finals, a tense situation unfolded between Malika Andrews and Giannis Antetokounmpo during a post-game press conference.
So you guys have talked a lot about how at this point, sometimes it takes experience. I'm wondering if now that you have some of that experience, if you see more validity to that point, or what you think about that now that you've gone through it.
As you can clearly see, as soon as Malika begins talking, Giannis' face changes before he later walks out of the room. The reason as to why Giannis left was that within a short 15 to 20 minute time frame following his team's exit from the play.
My nigga Giannis a real ass nigga. Like, I ain't having that shit. My nigga Giannis got that bitch fired too. I just thought about that shit. He got her fired.
Playoffs, Giannis would be notified of an article written by Malika Andrews. In the article, Malika had gone into great detail about Giannis' perspective on his future at Milwaukee with free agency approaching. The article basically created the narrative that his commitment to remaining in Milwaukee was based on whether the Bucks reached the NBA Finals or not. As a result, Giannis would not say a single word and see himself out, due to seemingly not wanting to partake in a conversation with her at all, as it seemed her journalism methods didn't sit right with him. Although some will claim Giannis is overreacting and that Malika was only doing her job, the subsequent controversies that emerged shortly after left the NBA community even more stunned. As time went on, Malika Andrews began being given bigger opportunities at ESPN. In late 2021, due to a diversity requirement and being set up, top ESPN host of 6 years Rachel Nichols was fired by ESPN after invasive methods were used to spy on her and set her up. Anyways, this role later opened up to Malika Andrews, an ideal candidate in the role to fit diversity requirements, and soon Malika Andrews would become a regular host that would be seen on ESPN. In early 2022, Malika would get into it with Matt Barnes during a LeBron versus Kobe debate.
No, I'm definitely not saying that, but what I'm saying is Kobe would get in, like, he would not let the
Sure,
some of his teammates
get in someone's face and it doesn't
slide.
turn into wins, then you're just getting in somebody's face.
But it's going to be a problem the entire season.
Months later, she would get into another debate with ex-NBA players.
You can't look at a person. Yeah, but you're making an assumption.
Yes, you can.
You can't look at a person and know what their intent was.
There is no doubt that Malika's ego is in her way during these arguments, forgetting that she's debating ex-NBA players about basketball.
Right!
Although these were just small confrontations, it was just a taste of what was yet to come. In September 2022, reports came out that Celtics head coach Ime Udoka was exposed for having a consensual relationship with a member of Celtics staff, breaking team rules, later resulting in his suspension as their head coach for the entire season that followed. In response to the situation and later suspension of Udoka, many members of the NBA media would give their input, including Stephen A. Smith. Stephen would come to the defense of Udoka, pointing out the hypocrisy with the entire publicized incident involving Ime.
Every single sport, there's people messing around with each other within an organization. Yep. It happens all the time. That is the problem with this issue. This black man that you got up here, we talking about him on national television because you publicize a personal matter where there's a whole bunch of issues personally that have happened in NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball.
That's what I'm talking about with Stephen A. He can really, it's still there with him, man. But man, he a puppet too, though. He a puppet. Fuck Stephen A.
And other sports, we don't hear about their personal business.
This would proceed to get Malika heated and on her high horse.
Stephen A., with all due respect, this is not about pointing the finger. We are not here, Stephen A., to further blame women. That is not why we are here.
So Stephen A. had to show her who was the real boss.
I don't appreciate where you're going with that. My issue is all of this being publicized. The point that I'm trying to make is just like you're not mentioning. Excuse me. I listened to you. You're the one telling me to stop on my show. It ain't happening.
However, when discussing the same topic on Malika's show, things went a little different with Kendrick Perkins.
This relationship that was had with Ime Udoka and one of these women, it was consensual, meaning that this woman actually played a part in it too. So my thing is, yes, Ime Udoka was wrong. We get that. His punishment, he deserved that, and whatever else follows, I hate it for him, but he put himself in this position. But why are the other people getting left off the hook?
Well,
that's the problem that I have
Kendrick,
right now. Everybody got to be held accountable.
It is unfair and irresponsible.
Hey, Brillo, man. You know I wasn't reading the comments at first, right? So I just got back to reading the comments and shit, right? Effie ain't got nothing to do with this, bro. Like why'd you? This ain't.
Responsible of us to go and to speculate on that, because what we have to.
Well, I'm not speculating.
Sure.
I have the information. I'm not speculating.
That whatever rule, the conduct that was broken on one side, it is not the same on the other side. I thank you for your perspective.
Although it's easy to point the finger at Malika, the reality of the situation goes deeper and may only point to Malika Andrews as merely just a messenger. Because the truth is, Malika Andrews fits in perfectly as the ideal candidate to promote the woke or feminist narrative that most media tend to push. I think these clips of Jalen Rose may just prove this.
We know his name. Maybe I'm missing something as it relates to the law, but why we don't know her name? It's not like she's a minor. I feel like we should know her name publicly as well.
After openly sharing his potentially controversial opinion, Rose would swiftly make an apology soon after, taking back everything he said.
And I would like to apologize for a comment I made earlier on NBA Countdown. I question why a woman's name who had an alleged affair with Celtics head coach Ime Udoka was not made public.
I think it's pretty obvious what ESPN thought about his initial statements. And after assistant coach Joe Mazzulla was named interim coach after Udoka's suspension, this is what Malika said to welcome him.
Mazzulla was arrested twice at West Virginia, once in 2008 for underage drinking and aggravated assault, and then again in 2009 for domestic battery after an incident at Morgantown Bar.
You might be wondering, is Malika okay? How does it make sense to bring up someone's criminal history from 13 years ago, in a situation where no crimes were committed under the law? However, when considering Malika's recent comments made about Brandon Miller, a clear yet disturbing pattern is becoming evident. To add to this, around a month after the Ime Udoka situation, during a segment reporting on the death of former Michigan State player Adrian Payne, this is what Malika had to say about Payne.
Adrian Payne was shot and killed in Orlando, Florida. Played 4 seasons in the NBA with multiple teams. In 2018, he was waived by the Magic after he was named in a report by ESPN's Outside the Lines that he'd been involved in an alleged sexual assault at Michigan State in 2010. No charges were filed in that case.
Again, the pattern of unnecessarily airing out the criminal history of black men during a time of vulnerability continues. So the question remains, did she speak these words of her own accord, or was she just reading from a script? If she indeed chose to bring up this incident unprompted, it reveals a deep-rooted hatred towards black men. If she didn't, then it brings up a deeper issue within the roots of the organization. Regardless, this doesn't take from the fact that Malika is the one making these absurd and damaging statements. Following this statement, it wouldn't be long until Malika Andrews' antics on television would again turn heads. While welcoming Jalen Rose back during a segment of a show, this happened.
Get your finger out of my armpit. We're just happy to see Jalen Rose. Welcome.
As you can clearly see, Jalen's hand is by no means under Malika's armpit, and even if it was, why does that need to be brought up on the spot in such an accusatory manner? Nevertheless, another baseless accusation by Malika, and Jalen Rose had to find out the hard way. To add to these two instances involving Ime Udoka and Adrian Payne, more recently Malika Andrews would bring up an alleged Brandon Miller incident on draft night.
His name did surface in court testimony involving a case where his former teammate and another man, they've been indicted for capital murder.
Many claim this as unnecessary and undoubtedly an attempt to tarnish Miller's name, just like many other black men. In this situation, Malika provided limited context, reading a sensationalized headline aimed at portraying Miller in the most negative light imaginable within a short segment. After considering Brandon Miller was never charged for the incident in January, her airing out a blanket incriminating accusation adds to another example of Malika Andrews showing contempt towards black men. Although Malika Andrews has not had the easiest upbringing by any means, this does not excuse her actions. There's no denying that she's swiftly established herself as a disliked figure in NBA media by her colleagues, as well as NBA players and fans, as a result of not just her typical journalistic tendencies, but her tendency to consistently attempt to tarnish the reputation of black men in the realm of sports. Malika's clear discrimination of black men on the extremely large platform is simply unjust. But what's more alarming is that the company that hires her continues to encourage her without punishment. After ESPN recently released their list of firings for the year,
Hey, Brillo, shut the
fans
fuck
were
up,
outraged
bro.
after discovering
Chill out,
Malika
bro.
Andrews was not on the
Hey,
list.
she is.
Although many of us see through her often
she's so
insensitive
motherfucking
actions,
fine,
to ESPN
bro.
and sports media as a
fine
whole,
as hell, but
she's
this bitch
probably
ain't
seen
shit.
as a loved and protected figure that can do no wrong. And the truth is, there is no sign that the rise of Malika Andrews in sports media will be stopping anytime soon.
Damn. I ain't gonna lie to y'all, man. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. Malika fine, man. But she ain't right. Hey, Tamika. She ain't right, bruh. She ain't right. And Brillo Effie ain't got nothing to do with this, bruh. You out of pocket. Why you just can't love her, bruh? Why you just can't show Effie love, man? I don't get it. Damn, bruh. You just said she was a. You said she was a legend the other day. Can she be a legend? Can she stay legendary status? She can't be a legend. I remember you calling her a legend or something like that, or some short like that, bruh. And if you didn't, I'm just gonna feel like I heard you say she was a legend. Fuck it. I'm just gonna stand on it. I got one more video to show y'all, bruh. This shit was all cold right here, too. Watch this shit.
You see this guy right here? This is Don Calhoun. He's a big Bulls fan. And he's about to do something that will change his entire life.
Oh, shit!
$1 million? That young man being hugged has just won $1 million here at Chicago Stadium.
Don just hit a shot from 80 feet out, a 3/4 court shot. His prize for nailing this absolute bomb, $1 million. He can't believe it. Fans erupt. Don joins the Bulls as they celebrate his victory. Michael Jordan throws his arm around Don and congratulates him. Good shot, kid. Don had just done the impossible, and with the game ball in one hand, $1 million check in the other, Don Calhoun did it. He was set. Except he wasn't. Due to a technicality in the rules of this contest, the insurance company that was required to make the payoff claimed they simply didn't have to pay the man. Don hit $1 million shot for absolutely nothing.
For the Millie Bridler. For the meal ticket.
Se você não obtiver pelo menos 3 heróis lendários no State of Survival em 10 minutos, exclua o aplicativo. A partir de agora, em 2023, o inédito jogo...
Today's video is sponsored by SeatGeek. My brothers, summer is finally here, and events are happening every day. Whether you're a baseball fan, a soccer fan, or you enjoy concerts and festivals, SeatGeek has all of your ticketing needs covered this season. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app, and with over 70,000 events happening every single day on SeatGeek, they've got anything and everything you're looking for. I've made it my mission to get out to more Timbers games this summer, and within the SeatGeek app, I can check the status of each available ticket for any game, and with their rating system, I can quickly see which tickets are a good deal, the green ones, and which tickets are a bad deal, the red ones. SeatGeek is safe, it's easy, and it's a guaranteed way to get the best deals for your tickets. And right now, SeatGeek is offering $20 off your first purchase when using promo code Jimmy. I've left a link to download the SeatGeek app in the description below. Just head over, use code Jimmy, and get $20 off your first purchase.
Man, that 20 is not gonna work for nothing because the fucking
With $1 million on the line, do you think you could sink a three-pointer? Pretty incredible consolation for one simple shot, but no one in their right mind would ever offer such a prize for making a single three-pointer. Except they did. Back in the 90s, during NBA All-Star Weekend, the league and a sponsoring company such as Foot Locker, American Express, Sony would host a contest for fans, the NBA's $1 million shot. It was one of the most anticipated side events of the entire weekend, and out of the millions of fans who entered to win a shot, only one would be chosen to take it. Get selected, make a three-pointer, win $1 million. An opportunity of a lifetime for 4 lucky contestants that were selected over the 4 years that the NBA hosted the contest. And to aid them in their quest for $1 million shot, each contestant was joined by a former or active NBA player to give them pointers and advice. In 1996, among the 6 million entries, 17-year-old Demetrius Houston was selected to take the $1 million shot. With George Gervin by his side and 17,000 fans looking on, Demetrius lines up his shot. And with $1 million on the line, he clanks it off the backboard. Gervin tells the kid not to worry about it, but I'm sure he did. In 1997, a man named Jim Valente was selected to take the $1 million shot. His host and mentor for the event, NBA legend Oscar Robertson, a man who literally never made a three-pointer in his entire NBA career. But Jim was focused. It was his wife's birthday, and what better birthday gift than $1 million check? So Jim steps up to the line. He's ready. The ways in which he'll spend the $1 million already racing through his mind. I'll get that Corvette I've always wanted. That'd sure look good in a Rolex. We could really use a new deck out back. Maybe I'll get a boat. Or maybe you'll get nothing. After the shot, Craig Sager asked Jim about his experience. $1 million. Gone. What went wrong, Jim? Give us some insight.
How did you feel at the time? What went wrong? I think I just pushed it a little bit right.
In 1998, a contestant named Sol Holkman was selected to take the shot. And for the first time in the contest history, a contestant actually hit the rim. Another year, another $1 million miss. But of all these $1 million shot events, none managed to top the one that started it all in 1995. The contestant that was chosen, 16-year-old Mike Hoban. For weeks leading up to the contest, Mike spent 2 hours a day, every day, shooting three-pointers. Accompanied by All-Star Dan Marley, Mike was locked in. Going through the most meticulous shooting routine you'll ever see in your life, Mike prepares his shot by, quote, becoming one with the basket. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if he pulled a microscope out and studied the hoop to better his odds. Now he's taking phantom shots. His routine is becoming more unhinged by the second. But it works for him. Friends and family look on, watching him live on TV, ready to witness history unfold. Mike is ready.
Let's go,
he
Mike.
lines up the shot. He shoots. And misses the rim by 2 feet. An air ball. The poor kid is devastated. Friends and family are stunned. All the while, the commentator of the event doing his best to help, but instead just pours on a slew of more disappointment in the process.
So young Mike Hoban has missed his shot at $1 million. The good news is, though, he doesn't win money, doesn't become a pro, and his college scholarship hopes stay alive. He'll go back to be the post-up player for his junior varsity team.
After the shot, Sager interviews the kid, where he has the bright idea of just asking for one more shot.
I wasn't really in that zone I wanted to be in, but, you know, one more shot. You would like one more shot, wouldn't you? Man, I would love another shot.
White privilege a motherfucker. White privilege a motherfucker. He thought he had it. He thought he was going to work one, didn't he?
You'd like one more shot, wouldn't you? Mike never got another shot. 4 contestants, $1 million on the line for 1 three-pointer, and 0 winners. And looking back on these contests, it's pretty remarkable that no one hit their $1 million shot. Because countless fans and contestants have hit much more difficult shots for far less money. We've all seen these contests unfold in person. a fan gets randomly chosen out of the stands to come down and try to hit a half-court shot. The prize money nowhere near $1 million. Usually the prize is $10,000 or maybe $20,000 or a car. This Mavericks fan hit a layup, a free throw, a three-pointer, and a half-court shot in sequence without missing. An anomaly of events in this context. His reward for the incredible feat? $3,000 worth of gift cards to a local furniture store.
What?
But it gets worse. Because at a Mavs game a few years later, this woman was put to the task of sinking a half-court shot. She's rocking the dirt gear, she's feeling good, beautiful form, and drills the shot. Nothing but net. What was her prize for pulling this off, you ask? A 65-inch flat screen TV. Absolutely appalling. This guy managed to drill a half-court shot at a Blazers game years ago and won round-trip tickets to anywhere of his choice. A pretty unlikely shot from the guy, but far from impossible. What is impossible, however, is the fact that another fan hit the same exact shot 30 seconds later. It's clear that some people actually make these shots. So what would happen if someone actually did hit $1 million shot? What if instead of shelling out some gift cards or flat screen TV, a team had to actually hand over a 7-figure check to one lucky fan?
Join large-scale battles with military vehicles. The online action game War Thunder has received a major update, Direct Hit. Joining the battle are machines like the Soap.
It's April 14th, 1993. The Bulls are facing the Heat in Chicago. The Bulls are on a roll coming into the matchup on a 3-game win streak. By halftime, Chicago is up by 14. Jordan is killing the Heat, 22 points in the first half. It's a great time for home fans as usual. But the real spectacle is about to take place. Throughout the 93 season, the Bulls hosted a promotion for their fans. Among the 18,000 fans in attendance for any given home game, one lucky individual would be chosen to shoot a 3/4 court shot to win $1 million. At the time, and to this day even, $1 million cash prize for such an event is unheard of. But the odds of such a shot going in are so astronomically unlikely that the Bulls and the insurance company that would be responsible for paying out the prize money felt comfortable running the event anyways. Leading up to that Heat matchup, 19 lucky fans had attempted the halftime $1 million shot. Of the 19, 2 hit the backboard, 16 were airballs, and just 1 even hit the rim. An estimate of a fan chosen at random hitting this shot? Less than 1%. And so a member of the Bulls organization went into the crowd and selected a 23-year-old local by the name of Don Calhoun. The reason for selecting him? His shoes wouldn't scuff up the floor. Hopeful, but understanding the slim odds that he faced, Don walked down to the court and prepared to take his shot. A fun halftime gimmick, something to keep the fans involved. They just slapped $1 million on there to get everyone excited, but no one will ever hit the shot anyways. Chris Hammond, vice president of SCA Promotions, a leader in the promotional contest industry, looks back on the shot saying, "The perfect contest is like the most tempting carnival game. Just feasible enough to make people think they can do it while actually being extremely difficult. You could have Steph Curry out there and still make money. Well, Mr. Hammond, it's time to pay up."
$1 million? That young man being hugged has just won $1 million here at Chicago Stadium. And for Don Calhoun of Bloomington, Illinois, a $1 million thrill.
In what is possibly the most inconceivable occurrence to ever happen on an NBA court, Don Calhoun drilled an 80-foot shot for $1 million. The whole place goes nuts. For a moment, it's like Don is part of this Bulls team and they just won another championship. Even the ref of the game comes over to congratulate him. The man just did the impossible. $1 million. That's more than half the guys on this roster made that year. And with the job complete, Don heads over to snap a photo with the check in one hand and the game ball in the other. He did it. At least that's what he thought. See, these promotions are combed through meticulously by some of the best lawyers money can buy. The rules and restrictions are tight. Break one of them and you can kiss those winnings goodbye. Don Calhoun broke one of the rules. Not intentionally or anything, but among the stipulations of this promotion, one of them states that the contestant could not have played organized basketball within 5 years of the contest. And just 3 years prior to this contest, Don was a member of the Triton Community Basketball team. The contest people knew this. Don acknowledged this by marking the information on the contest form. But the contest people shrugged it off and gave him the shot anyways. The insurance people, however, did not. To them, it was a clear breach of the rules. Don should have never been selected in the first place. And so the insurance company of the event disqualified Don out of his shot and out of his $1 million. When news broke that the now local legend would not be receiving his money, fans were livid. As reports on the event grew, fan outrage grew with it. And within a week, the Bulls organization was under so much local pressure that they held a press conference announcing that they actually had a change of heart and they would pay up. A very strange and inexplicable decision considering their stance just a few days prior. Don's $1 million split into 20 payments over the next 20 years. His first check for $50,000 was sent out that week. Technically, rules were broken, but Don was getting paid, and he had no idea how or why. A year after his miraculous shot, Don heard that Michael Jordan would be in the area for one of his son's basketball games. A perfect opportunity for Don to get his $1 million game ball signed. So Don pulled up to the game in search of Michael, but with security flocking the NBA star, no fans were getting anywhere near him. But Don wasn't just an ordinary fan. He's the guy who hit the $1 million shot. Jordan recognized him in the stands and had security bring him over after the game. And with his ball in hand, hoping to get an autograph, Don approached Michael. But MJ didn't call him over to give him an autograph. Instead, he had to ask Don a question. Did you get your money? A year after the Bulls had their change of heart and decided to pay him his money, Don finally got an answer why. Turns out the insurance company wasn't the one who paid Don. They never intended to. After hearing about what the insurance company was trying to pull, Michael Jordan, along with other players on the Bulls, told ownership they needed to pay up. And so the organization did, out of their own pockets. Legally, the parties involved were within their rights to void the payments altogether, but Michael felt like what they were doing wasn't right. And so he made it right. If it wasn't for Michael approaching ownership and demanding they pay Don his money, he would have never seen a cent of that $1 million. So turns out that even if it was for a brief moment, Don Calhoun was a part of the Bulls. Seeking nothing in return, Michael and the rest of the players looked out for Don. Oh, and that autograph Don wanted, a couple weeks later, he got that too. So what happens if someone actually makes one of those inconceivable $1 million shots? Well, one way or another, they get paid.
Shout out to Mike for being a real nigga. Mike did a good thing. I don't fuck with Mike, but he did the right thing right there. Alright, y'all. Thank y'all for coming through. I gotta shoot a move. Appreciate y'all.